The men have lain here for 60 years. Their promise in that proclamation of a new, free Gaelic Ireland, the definitive statement of our national political ideals, their comrades and companions, our national leaders. Decade after decade, we've gathered here at this national shrine, where time and circumstance and language fuse into a single great evocative myth. Easter 1916, a terrible beauty is born. The politicians and the publicists have rehearsed the rhetoric of the poets. I've done it myself. I've been here on the great ceremonial and the state occasions. I've used that special public language. It's expected here. But it's not the way real Irish people talk to each other about politics. And these men said they were out to make a political revolution, to change the history of our times, the history we're living in now. And to make sense of what they did, we have to translate it into our language. That means asking questions. And the single great question: what happened to their dream and our reality? You remember 10 years ago, the 50th anniversary, and the state with all its ceremonial paying tribute, the music of O'Riordan. We used it at the head of this programme, for a moment washing out pop music. And this year, nothing. No ceremonial, silence. Why? These men were conscious that their deed would affect generations yet unborn. So what about those generations? Not people like me and many of us, brought up still in the epic shadow of 1916, but young people born into the freedom of the Republic as it is. How do they see their relationship with these men? We asked them.
You must remember it's 60 years now since it's happened, and even back 10 years ago, we hadn't, a lot of us hadn't heard of 1916. It had been more or less forgotten about. And there was this great sudden surge of Republican feeling.
In the past few years, there has been a feeling that it's imperative that it should be toned down in some way so as to play towards the loyalists and intransigents in the north. And this is fairly true, because 1916 and a couple of other occasions in Irish history, there are very sore points for the majority in the north. And if some of these were toned down, possibly it might help those a bit longer, they might find it a bit easier to see our views.
The politicians turned around and saying, well, 1916 doesn't really matter. They're only trying to calm the unionist fears in the north, saying, well, look at us, we don't mind what happened in the past, we're open arms, we're only waiting on you. So if the All-Ireland group and saying God save the Queen, the unionists still wouldn't trust them.
Since the 1966, we've had all the Northern Ireland violence, and people are just sick and tired of military occasions. And the 1916 symbolises a military occasion. People just don't want to know anymore.
Culturally, they needed it, but as far as the socially, as a revolution, I think it was a failure. I don't think it would have, Connolly particularly, I don't think would have been pleased with what he has now.
When we were small children in 1966, it's a very theatrical piece, the proclamation. All the wording of it, it's all meant to conjure up the Irish Ireland, all beautiful greenery and everything. And we all learnt it off.
So they built themselves up into gods, like the likes of Pearse. He used to only have his photograph taken on one side so he wouldn't show the squint in the other eye. He built himself up to be a god. And they set out to be gods. They knew what was going to happen. And they were hoping that the public opinion would change. And that when it did change, they would have heroes to turn to. That they had to build themselves up into heroes.
The oration at O'Donovan Ross's graveside, you get the impression listening to it that he's a priest. And even we're afraid now to talk about, to say something wrong about 1916, because it's such a holy thing in Ireland. It's almost sacred.
The whole system of Pearse building himself up as a god, I disagree with that, because he did it for Ireland and he didn't want to get recognised for it. He just wanted to do it because he loved the Irish language and because he loved Ireland. And to me, he wasn't a god. He didn't build himself up as a god.
The British government and the Conservatives, as they were then, they can give you land action, everything you want, but they didn't give us our freedom, and we had to fight for that. And I'd rather be a poor man in a gutter and have my freedom than be under British rule again.
We're not Irish, we're Anglo-Irish. I mean, we have a mongrel culture. And to be Irish, we've got to earn a culture. I mean, we can't just say we're Irish and say we've got the Irish culture, we've got to become Irish. We're not Irish at the moment.
I don't really agree with that we're not Irish, because, I mean, we're born in Irish, we've Irish citizens. I've got O'Neill as a name, and everything's Irish about us, you know what I mean? I can't really see that.
That's a foolish attitude to say we're not Irish. I mean, we were born in Ireland, and a person can be just as patriotic even if he can't speak Irish as when he can, like, you know. It doesn't make any difference whether you're born in Dublin or West Connacht, you're still Irish.
The fact that our parents were not able to learn Irish because they had to leave school, say 14 or 15, to go out and get a job when time was hard, and they could learn Irish, but because they don't know the Irish language, shouldn't say they're not Irish. Because the Irish born, they're proud to be Irish, you know.
There are Irish in Ireland. We're not the Irish, we're the Anglo-Irish. We haven't got the culture. We have a separate culture, the culture of Synge and Yeats, and we're Anglo-Irish. We can't call ourselves Irish unless we earn the culture.
I think the important thing is the freedom to be able to speak Irish if you want to speak Irish or not to speak it. The freedom is what matters.
I don't think it changed much, really, because we haven't had a national language revival. We haven't had our social system hasn't changed drastically. That would have suited maybe Conley. I don't think that the 1916 Rising, I don't think it had a huge effect on the way Ireland has gone on.
I think it's wrong to say that people ever forgot 1916 in any type of way. It'll always be with them, and I think they'll always want it there. Not that it has any importance politically. I don't think it could have, because I don't think anybody, even in the north of Ireland, rejects the 1916 Rising as anything. It's just the aftermath that they reject. The fact that then the whole of Southern Ireland went against England, which was what they wanted. That's the dividing line.
Mixed views, opinions and emotions there from the senior boys of the Christian Brothers School in Synge Street.